such a good feeling to see somebody really wants to get it and is working hard on it. And that was the one part, and the other part, it was just really nice with you. It's the friendship, and that's the nicest thing, to have good work and friendship together. So really, thank you very much.
Thank you. مساء الخير. بنرحب بيكم في العربي نشر التوزيع في لقاءاتنا المتكررة مع كتابنا من حول العالم. لقائنا النهارده مع كاتبنا السويسري العزيز يوناس لوشر. كاتبنا من سويسرا. نشرنا ليه عملين. نشرنا العمل الأولاني هو ربيع البربر، وعملنا لقاء معاه بخصوص الكتاب ده هتلاقوه موجود. وبنعمل المره دي لقاء معاه تاني عن روايته، يعني الاحدث نسبيا، هي ما عملش بعدها روايه لسه، والروايه الحائزه على جائزه الكتاب السويسري، روايه كرافت. روايه مش سهله خالص في القرايه، ومش سهله خالص في الترجمه الحقيقه، وده نقطه هنبقى نتكلم عليها برضو. ان دي روايه فيها جزء كبير فلسفي، فيها جزء كبير له علاقه بالتاريخ الالماني او الاوروبي بشكل عام، فيها بتحصل احداثها في سان فرانسيسكو وجزء في المانيا في فتره سقوط حائط برلين والاحداث وانعكاساتها، وبيرجع للماضي وبيطلع للمستقبل، وفيها ممكن نقول في الاخر نظره تشاؤميه قوي للاحداث. احنا كنا ساعدنا في الترجمه لان في ريفرنسز كثيره لاعمال ادبيه واعمال فنيه وافلام واشخاص وكتابات. لازم مش لازم بس يعني هو بتبقى ممكن حاجات ممكن تكون معروفه للسويسريين او للالمان، بس ممكن مش معروفه في العالم العربي، فكنا بنحاول نوضح ده بشكل او باخر. ومتهيألي نجحنا لان الروايه كانت ترجمتها مرشحه لجائزه، واللي قروها كلهم اعجبوا وقالوا زي ما احنا قلنا ان هو عمل مش سهل ومش عادي. ويوناس هو مش كاتب عادي برضه، وده يمكن اللي هنتكلم فيه معاه لان هو جه القاهره كذا مره واتكلمنا بشكل شخصي يعني، ففعلا اكتشفنا ان هو مش كاتب عادي، وده السبب حبنا ليه واصرارنا على العمل معاه في كل اعماله حتى الصعب منه. فاستاذنكم هنتكلم بالانجليزي وهتظهر لكم الترجمه تحت، ونتكلم مع يوناس. Hi Jonas, how are you?
Hi, thanks. I'm fine. And you?
All is well. You recovered now from Corona. I think you had COVID-19 last year at the same time, I think?
Yes.
You were just recovering at this time.
Yes, a year ago I was in rehab, yeah.
How was it with you? I think you caught it just in the beginning of Corona. It was like March 2020?
I got infected probably on March 15th. So I was one of the earlier cases in Germany.
And I heard you were in coma for...
Yes, they had to put me in a coma, and I was in a coma for about 7 weeks all in all. And I was in an intensive care unit for more than 2 months, and a couple of weeks later in a rehab facilitation. Wow. Because when you're a longer time in a coma, you lose all your muscles. I was like 20 pounds thinner and without any muscles, and wow. Had to learn to walk again and stuff like this. But now it's I'm pretty well.
And do you recall anything about being in coma? I mean, is it like, or yes, just like a black hole?
No, it's not. It would be nice if it's just a black hole, but you realize a lot of things happening around you. You can sometimes see parts of the room around you, and I had a lot of like nightmares, kind of, because of all the drugs they gave me, and it's a pretty existential thing to survive, yeah. Because you
don't want to dwell on it, but I mean, would we see this in any of your upcoming novels? Do you think you'll be able to write about this, or this will be mentioned?
I think I sometimes might write about it, but it will take a couple of years, I would say. I'm still recovering and working on the trauma, and you know, I still have some like backflashes when I hear certain noises or stuff like this. It brings me back to the situation, and so I think it will take us some time to really be able to write about it for the public.
Okay, we're happy that you're healthy now and you're with us, and you'll keep writing, and that's like really nice to be able to do again. We'll talk about Kraft. Kraft
yes.
is a name of the main character of a family, which is the main character in the book. And Kraft in Germany means power, I think.
It means power. It means also force. That's the meaning, the German meaning of the word.
You
yes.
meant to select this name.
Yeah, but it's more of like an ironic title, because it's about a guy who loses all his force and his power during the book.
Yeah, so as well as we know that you have all this sarcasm of also having all these contradictions in your books or in your way of thinking even. So you selected this name on purpose to make fun of the character who's not strong at all, as we see in the book.
Yes, I would say in the beginning he is kind of. Then also the book goes back in time and tells about his youth. And in his youth, he was like a powerful and strong student. But then in the book now, he loses all his abilities and his power and his luck.
So the book starts with Kraft, who receives or gets like an invitation to participate in a competition where he will win a huge sum of money, I think $1 million or something.
$1 million,
if he writes
yes.
About?
The question he has to write about is why everything how it is good and why we still can improve it, which is kind of a modern take on the very old theodicy question. The question if God, why when he's almighty and powerful and good, why he still lets the evil things happening in the world.
So as fun as it starts like a competition and someone is competing, but it goes directly into philosophy that we see all during the book, and we see also all your influence with other books and authors. Can't see, I think at the end there was themes from books that you add to the things from other books that you add to your book, and you might criticize them or make fun of them or say that it's possible to be done in the 20th century or 21st century and stuff like that. So how do you write philosophy in a story, in a literature? How do you combine them together?
I think the most important thing is to include the philosophy into the life of your characters. I try to write about philosophical questions only if they have a meaning for the life of my characters, if they are part of their everyday problems. it's kind of boring when you write about philosophy in literature and you include it like kind of a sermon, kind of a lecture, a speech. Then it's clumsy and boring. So I write about philosophical questions which have a, let's say, a high relevance for the life of my characters.
Okay, and when you started writing such a book, I mean, do you have in mind, like, I'll start with this, and this chapter will be about this, and then we'll talk about this, and we'll go through this, or you just start to write, and then the character materializes as we go?
I have kind of a vague idea where it will go when I start, but then I do a lot of research while I'm writing, and this research is steering the story in a certain direction. So in the beginning, when I start writing a book, it's very vague. It's more like, mostly I do have a question and I want to answer this question. Writing a novel for me is always like an experiment, like finding out something about the world which I'm curious about. And then normally when I'm like about half of the book is written, then I have quite a good idea how the second part of the book will look and which chapters will be needed. And then I start to do something like a plan. But the first half of the book, it's just developing day by day in a very, very, very slow process. I'm a really slow writer.
That's also what brings me. I remember when we were talking, you have a special software for writing that blurs everything. You have a special software, not the normal Microsoft Word. You use a special software that just blurs everything and it focuses on the line that you're writing, if I recall.
Yes.
What was the name of the software? Maybe someone wants to use it.
It's called AI Writer.
AI Writer.
Like artificial intelligence writer, AI writer. It's actually a...
So you need to really focus on the line that you write.
Yes, I want to, not on the line, it's focusing on the sentence you're working on. Because for me, writing is in fact just putting one good sentence after the other. So the basic size of, or the basic object of writing is the sentence. And I want to work on one sentence till it's like perfect or as good as I can be, can write it. And then I go on and I write the next sentence. So this is kind of my process. I think in sentences, yes.
Yeah,
which are sometimes very long.
That's what I wanted to say. Speaking of sentences, you have one sentence in this book that's around 2.5 pages.
Yeah,
just
it is.
One
I'm
sentence.
Not sure, in the Arabic version that long too, or did you have to split it up?
No. In Arabic, we can't have such a long sentence. Yeah. That would be a killer. But I mean, the full stop was after 2.5 pages, because Arabic readers will find this very strange because we don't have this, I think, in Arabic to write. I mean, in general, Arabic never writes you like shorter sentences, and we like to use our punctuation. So you have, if you even need to extend a little bit. And but why 2.5 pages in one sentence? Is it like a challenge? Does it make it like high literature if you do this? Is it like, I mean, do you still concentrate on where did you start when you end the 2.5? It's reading, or because I really don't understand how I don't speak German. I'm not a German speaker. So I always ask even Arabic readers who know German, I mean, would you still focus or still know, because you have sometimes the verb at the very end, or the construction of the sentence is really a killer for us. So why 2.5 pages?
Do that in German. It's not that usual anymore, but we have a tradition of writing in long sentences. Most famous, of course, Thomas Mann, which was famous for that. But for me, it's more like my writing works like a combination of different smaller stories. So sometimes one sentence, I try to write one sentence as a whole small story as being part of a bigger story. So, and it's also kind of a theory of action, because I think that we tend to being pushed in a certain direction as human beings, as actors, being pushed. And we start walking in this direction, and I start a sentence and it gets faster and faster because we are struggling. And then I put in like a smaller sentence in the bigger sentence, just with commas, which is something like an obstacle you run into in the real world. And then you struggle again and you almost trip over your own words, and it all gets faster and faster and more dramatic, all in the same sentence. And then I often try to end the sentence in something like a punchline, like to bring something like a comic relief. And that seems to me to be like a good metaphor for how we struggle through life.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen this. But you know that this book was a big challenge for us to work with. And معتز المغاوري, Dr. معtez, who worked with us, I told him from the beginning that, well, I mean, this will be a challenge. It's not an easy book. It needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work of my team also in the editorial team. So for a year and a month, actually, 13 months, we worked on page by page. معtez would work all week in like only like 3 pages or something. He would come here in the office every Thursday. I think we made it like a dating time. Every
Sometimes
Thursday.
I took part by Skype or Zoom.
Yeah, you took part at the very end also to correct, but every week. And I mean, we have photos where you see like the 4 seasons. He used to come with a coat, and then like lighter, and then like in shorts, and then like again back in getting a little bit hot. And I mean, it was like a full thing. And I would say that your book, for me as an editor, it helped me to crack the German language.
اللي بعدها وكيف أن هذه نقطة تحول في تاريخ البشرية ورمز ضد الطغاة الشيوعيين وأتباعهم المنقذين في كلية العلوم الإنسانية بالعالم الحر. طيب دي عايزة تتظبط برضه إن هذه نقطة تحول في تاريخ البشرية وتعتبر رمز ضد الطغاة.
It was, I think, the most difficult thing to translate for us for now. I mean, and to work with, and the structure, as you said, of the sentences, and why do you do this in German? And then when I understood how it is, I could make it Arabic, meaning that we don't use these all long sentences. And I want to keep also what you want to say exactly. So we started to break it into smaller sentences. Yeah. So you have maybe to switch sometimes. Get the verb first and close the sentence and then write the other one, and also to keep the flow of the text, because it has to be read correctly and nicely in Arabic. It's not just like what you said exactly, or else nobody would understand unless you know German. So that was a big challenge. And after that, we started to translating a lot of German books, because I mean, now I know where the problem, or why people don't read the German if they are translated exactly as they are. You have to have an input of an editor to make this. And with you also, and with the help of Pro Helvetia, I have to admit that we asked them for you to come to Cairo at the very end of the 13 months to sit with us, the 4 editors and the translator, to sit together and discuss what we think of this and what we think of that, and how to do this and how to do that, which was like a really interesting way of, I think, collaboration and making things reach somehow perfection in this. What do you think of this experience? Have you done this with other languages, with other books of yours?
Yes, I have done it before with my first book, with the Barbarian Spring. There I had the opportunity to invite 5 of my translators from all over the world, and we sat together a couple of days and went through the whole book. And then now with you and Muatas, and it's also always a very interesting experience for me, because I learn a lot about my own writing, because I have to to find answers to your questions and to deliver reasons why I do things like this and not on the other way, because writing often is a very intuitive process, and often you do not really know why you wrote the sentence like this and not like that. And when you have editors and translators asking you questions, then you have to find like a reason, and you often learn a lot about your own writing. That's very helpful for me.
I think also we learned about your writing style, because you always start with something that's happening, and then you start to go a little bit the back, where did it come from, and then a little bit more, where did it start, and then a little bit. So I mean, we tried sometimes to bury things if it's like very difficult to explain, but then we have to find a way to explain it, because you will bring it back again. I remember there was this scene that you were describing people as if they are the knitting stitches of a terracotta way. And we know nothing about this. And I don't think that people use this anymore, the terracotta. Nobody is doing this. I think it's popular now in Finland with the lockdown. But I mean, we said we'll do it like normal sewing. I mean, it will give the same meaning. But then we found that in the third paragraph, you talk about the sticks of the needle, the needle itself.
Yes, right.
But we had to go back and research websites and videos and stuff to know the name of these stitches. What do they call, or how they have names in Arabic? And I think we found like a very woman section of a forum that was talking about all types of stitches in Arabic, that you can find names in Arabic. That so we mixed what you're doing.
عشان كده
بالنسبة تحت بالنسبة الأسفل يكون هذول هدفه خط ديال الجنب ديال المنطق.
نرجع للجملة ولتشريد وطريقة للظروف الوقائي قام بحكاية لكي تطلع ورث كرافت.
Which was really, really interesting. It was a learning curve for us with the book. And we enjoyed doing this as torturing as sometimes, you know, it's like, oh my God, why is he doing this? Why is he choosing this? Why not an easy? And also we watched the whole Parliament episode, or it's a whole chapter in the book about this Parliament. And there was, I think, Helmut Schmidt and his way of doing tobacco in his nose and sniffing it and stuff. That was really...
There are a lot of cultural references in the book and political references, and there's a lot of details about German politics in the early 80s and stuff like this, which might be very strange for the Arabic reader and also for you to translate, which was...
And also we have to first understand and then to find a way to explain it in fewer words. We don't like to put any footnotes. So we have to explain it within the text also, this and that and why and everything. And I remember after finishing, we had to send it to our friend, the famous critic Mahmoud Abdul Shakur, the first 6 chapters to check, because we were too close to the text to know, I mean, is it readable? Do you understand what he's saying? He said, yeah, it's very easy. I can easily read it. I'm actually looking to find what he will do with text. And he wrote beautiful article about the book. He loved it, as you know. And we discussed it also. So getting a prize for the book, did it really help? I mean, it helped in sales probably, sure. Also translation. Sure, yes. I mean, how does it? Because I remember we were also your lucky charm always. When you come to Cairo, you always win an award here, and then you end up inviting us for a dinner on that day. With the Bavarian Spring, it happened, and with Kraft also. Yeah. So, I mean, how do you see prizes in literature? Because I know that you are, for instance, difference between Egypt and the Arab world and Germany. You live out of your writing. You don't work anything, you're just a writer, and you make your living out of this, which is It's not impossible. I think it's very difficult to do this in the Arab world.
Yeah.
So how prizes are important in this context?
Prizes are important. I would say almost there are only a couple of German writers who can live from book sales. In my case, I would say there's probably something like a third of my income is book sales. And a third is prize money and scholarships, stuff like this. We have a lot of scholarships from the government to cities are giving out scholarships. The state is giving out scholarships, the Ministry of Culture, stuff like this. And then there is also one special thing in the German world. We have those reading tours. We go
very
on
long German. This is very German. I mean,
German. We call it a water glass reading because it's only a writer, a table, and a glass of water. And we sit behind the table and we read for like 45 minutes. I think Arabic people will get crazy if somebody is reading them 45 minutes. We do that, and then we discuss with the moderator and the public about what they heard. And I do it very often. I also do it often in schools. I'm invited to schools to read or into libraries, and we have special like literary houses. Also financed by government, by politics in many cities where they organize these readings. And all of those readings are paid. We get a salary for those, honorary. So I would say reading.
Do you do a dramatic reading or you just read?
No, I just read.
You don't get bored because probably you read, I mean, you have like 3-4 passages, 5 passages that you read regularly.
Yeah.
You must know them by heart.
It's a bit boring, that's true. I try to change and not to read always the same parts, and I try to read it well, but it gets a bit boring after a while. But still, it is a big part of being a writer in Germany. It's the last third of my income, I would say, and it is a reason why we as German writers know our readers quite well, because we meet them. I have met thousands of my readers sitting in front of me and asking me questions. And this close relationship with the readers is kind of interesting.
I remember when we were in Cairo, when we met you first time, it was a very strange time because I met you for one day and then I went for Frankfurt to attend the Frankfurt book fair, and you were staying in Cairo for 3 weeks. And I didn't know who's that author. I mean, you just came to the office, we talked, went out, we had kushari, we went up to a rooftop place. And I mean, it was really surreal how things started and then developed. But we had 3 events for you. And I remember by the 3rd event, we didn't have so many audience. And I felt bad, I mean, for you. And I said, I'm sorry if this is not enough, but we tried, but people came in the 1st and 2nd, they wouldn't expect to come 3 days in a row for the same event. But then you said it's sure. And you told me a story, which I remember that once you went to an event, there was only one person and you took him out for dinner. And then the next day you were
we went for a beer. Yes.
So how was that?
That was very sad. That wasn't nice. That happened just once, and it wasn't in Germany. It was in
Holland.
Yes, you're right. It was in the Netherlands. Yes.
But then the next day you had 200 students. So
yes, right. So it can be very different. Yeah.
But I love your attitude. You took him out for dinner, and you even paid for it, and you discussed and everything, and it was like, okay, it happened.
Sure.
So,
it can happen, but it's not very nice experience.
Of course. I mean,
sometimes
but it's good for your ego sometimes to have this hit, I think. It's just makes you more to the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
And especially when I'm reading in foreign countries, it's very important that bookseller is organizing is doing good public relation, because in most countries I'm not a well-known writer, so
Not
the
easy.
bookseller knows his audience, has to invite them and tell them this is interesting, come and listen, and otherwise it won't work. Yeah.
No, but you became famous here. You went on TV, you went in the news, you went in book fairs, you had some reading under a palm tree on the Nile in a palace.
Oh, yes,
so yes, you've done it all, I think, here.
Yes, but I do have a special relationship to Egypt and my Egyptian readers, and a special relationship to my Egyptian publisher, I can say.
Yeah, I mean it's more than
close
just
relationship now that I don't have with many of my publishers.
No, it's more than just books, of course. In the book Kraft, you criticize a lot the new technology and where we're going, which is a bit interesting because it has a bit of a futuristic look on what might happen and what's actually happening since you wrote it till now. I think a lot of things are also materializing, kind of you predicted, with all the apps, with all the rating of the apps, and with all the time that we have to run. How did you see this? Because you've been to Stanford University, I think, in the past, and it was not now. I mean, it was a little bit to the past where technology was not even that much as well. But what's your take on technology and where are we going now?
It's a huge question. It's a very huge question. And I would say there isn't a simple answer, or there isn't an answer for technology as such, because technology is not existing as one single thing, or it's a lot of different smaller developments we have to watch closely. I mean, in the last few years, a lot happened, especially when it comes to social media, which has been watched critically much more in the last couple of years, mostly about what happened around the elections in the US and Donald Trump and his Twitter account and all this stuff. In Germany, the view on social media was critical for a long time already. But I realized when I came to Cairo that this is not such a huge debate, or it wasn't when I was in Cairo. I don't know if it has changed too, but Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff was just mostly seen as something very unproblematic and good and easy to go with. Maybe this has changed, I don't know. But I think worldwide there is much stronger criticism right now. That's the one part about the power of all those huge companies like Facebook and Twitter and Google, which are discussed very widely now, not only their media power, but also their financial power. We're very much talking about now breaking up some of those two big companies in the US, in Europe too. We're talking more about the tax problems we have with those huge media, huge digital companies, that they don't really pay taxes. We are going to change those things. These are interesting developments in technology. On the other hand, you have the whole discussion about artificial intelligence, which takes part in Kraft just at the end a little bit. I start looking into this direction. This is something which I'm really interested in, but it's still a very, let's say, open discussion, because we are right at the beginning, I would say, of the development of artificial intelligence. It's almost exaggerating to talk about artificial intelligence, because most things who are named AI are pretty stupid till now. But this will change, and I think we have to have an eye on it now, because it will change how we live and how we think about ourselves, and it is something we have to take care of early enough.
Okay, but speaking of technology, also in the book there is this how do you call the love life or the social life of Kraft was also there, and was also I mean, you gave it enough space in this book, maybe more than the other one, to see. I mean, you're not only talking about technology, you're talking about how he's also have a terrible love life or a social life with his lovers, first and second wives, with his friends even, and how things are. I mean, who to blame for this? Who are you blaming, or who do you why do you think it's like that? It's the character, or it's the society, or it's
I know it's a character. It's
a person like this.
It is the character, of course. It's because Kraft is very egocentric. He's only thinking about himself. He's only interested in himself. He's using women as kind of a mirror to see himself reflected in women, but he's not really interested into his wife or his former wife, his first wife. He just uses them more. And that is a very specific part of the character of Kraft. But on the other hand, it is of course a certain type of toxic male behavior which is kind of widespread, of course, especially also in this European academic field, where you have a certain generation of men who are very sure about themselves, very fond of their intellect, very much egocentric, interested in themselves, and yeah.
That's really interesting. We don't want to take a lot of your time, but let's a couple of last questions. You said that you like Egypt and you like coming to Egypt, and I think you walked a lot in the streets. You wrote a beautiful article about Egypt, which is like a big article in reportage. And would ever Egypt be in one of your coming books? Would you think there will be something happening in Egypt, or would you include it in one of the novels, or be a character here? Would you get inspired by here?
It's very well possible. Right now, my new book will not take place in Egypt, but it is, of course, for me, yeah, it's a country I'm thinking a lot about. When I'm writing right now, I'm looking at a wall where there are 3 pictures from Egypt. I have a picture from Cairo from the 50s. I have a picture of the pyramids with a Zeppelin flying over it. And I have a really old, nice picture from the Suez Canal at my wall, hanging on my wall. Wow. So Egypt is always pretty close to me. And Kulthum is watching me from the...
I know that you have an Kulthum. We worked together, yeah. So what's the next book about?
Yeah, it's hard for me to talk about it because I'm really at the beginning.
Okay.
But it actually will pose certain questions about artificial intelligence and about writing itself, or about how to write about the future, and what is I tried to find out what could be our possibilities or the responsibility of the writer when it comes to to utopias, because most of the writing about the future is very dystopic in nature. It is pretty easy to write about a dark future and about to write what all will go wrong with man and technology and everything. But I try to find out what could be something like a real utopia or an imaginary utopia, something,
wow,
how we're, from today's point, our society could find a positive way for its future. Also, in light of the very difficult questions about climate change we have to face and all this stuff.
Wow, I wonder how it will be, but I'm sure it
yeah,
wouldn't
me
be
too.
easy. I'm sure it wouldn't be easy at all, but we're so looking forward to another challenge, and for you also to visit us again and sit and discuss and talk. Because I remember Kraft also, you read for us the first chapter or something and kept translating it when it was just also in the beginning an idea. So let's hope that things will be back to normal and you bring the family and come and enjoy Egypt, and then we work on new books as well. Jonas Lüscher, thank you very much for being with us for a second time. Please write more books. Please take care of yourself and your health. And we all love you from here, and you have a lot of fans and friends from Egypt who really wish you the best.
That's really nice to hear. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
You too.
Goodbye.
Bye.